Hello, fans of DX Engineering and that are on YouTube and are on Facebook. It's time for the Manufacturers Showcase, brought to you by DX Engineering. It's Tuesday afternoon or Thursday afternoon here in the Eastern Time Zone, and we're very pleased to have Mick, KB6 JVT from NCG Comet. Hello, Mick.
Hey, how are you doing, Tim? Glad to be here.
Great, great. It's good to have you on with us today. And Mick, why don't you tell us the lines that you have, and then we'll get into some of the product.
Sure,
and of course, we want to encourage our viewers to ask questions in the comment area. So just post any questions you have for Mick, and we will get those to Mick as well. So tell us about the lines that you have, Mick.
Okay, well, NCG company stands for National Communication Group. A little difficult to spit that out, so we just shortened it to NCG. So we distribute Comet, Maldol, Daiwa, and we do support some creative design products. Creative design often goes by the name Create. They sell, roof towers, log periodics, and some big HF antennas, but we just kind of support them and do some special orders. We don't really carry all their product line. So basically, 80% of our sales is Comet, 10%, 20% Daiwa, and a little bit of Maldol, a little bit of Create.
Okay, great. Well, let's step through these lines just a little bit here as we go through some of the products. Let's talk about the Comet line, which there's a lot of activity there. And let's talk about some of the new antennas that you think are really gaining a lot of momentum.
Sure. Well, a little bit of history of Comet. While I got this opportunity, Comet, we've been their distributor since the early '80s, and they've got a great customer service team. They've got a great engineering team, but they specialize in VHF, UHF, and their HF antennas. They specialize in compact multi-band antennas, trying to get as much antenna into the smallest amount of room and package as possible. That's where most of our customers call us. They just moved into an HOA. They have a small piece of property. They don't have room to put up an antenna farm. They'd love to, of course. They don't have room to put up a full-size antenna system. They don't have room. So Comet really concentrates on building products for them. So it's kind of limited to the HF market, because they've got the niche that they're aiming for. So our biggest selling HF antenna, we might as well start with that, is the CHA 250B. It's an antenna that's 25 feet tall, but it's one element basically all the way up from top to bottom. It's a series of aluminum tubing, and it goes together to create an antenna that's broadband. It's capable of transmitting virtually every frequency between 3.5 and 57 megahertz. So no matter what, you're going to get a decent match, and you're going to be able to use any of those bands with one antenna. Now, it's not the most efficient design. We fully admit that, fully even tell you that to begin with. But if you got room to put up one antenna, the family, the neighbors, and the HOA will accept. Take a look at CHA 250B.
The CHA 250B, okay. And what's a typical price for that antenna? It covers all the HF bands.
Well, the MSRP is just over $400, but typically street price is $399.
Okay,
right around there.
All right. Well, that's a great value. Somebody who maybe they have an FT891, or they have an IC7300, or even one of the TS590 from Kenwood. That at least it gets them on the air. And
right, especially a lot of newer guys right now. I mean, over the last 6 months, as everybody's been locked at home, 2/3 of our questions are, well, I've always loved ham radio. I'm just getting into it. Can you recommend an antenna? So to put one up, you don't know what band you're going to be operating. You don't know what mode you're really interested in. You're just trying to get something up in the air so you can get your feet wet. This covers everything. So then you can maybe put up a resonant antenna on 40, or a resonant on 15 or 20 if you've got the space. but at least
Right.
you're on the air without spending too much money, without upsetting the whole neighborhood. So that's our number one question lately.
So let's talk about Daiwa.
Sure.
What do you have that is a hot mover from Daiwa?
Daiwa has an economy version of their SWR meters, and then they have the professional version that they call, but this is the CN901HP. So Daiwa is made their name, and by the way, they're not the same as the fishing reel company, because maybe once or twice a month somebody will be driving down our front of our building and see our Daiwa logo, and they'll knock and ask if we have fishing reels. So we have to disappoint them. But Daiwa created this cross needle function. Typically if you're using an SWR meter, you've got to calibrate the meter. You've got to go from forward power, calibrate, reflective power, calibrate, and then you can check your SWR. A cross needle meter does all this simultaneously. As you transmit, the power flows through the meter, your forward power is provided, your reflective power is provided, and where the needles cross is your SWR ratio. So you can keep an eye on your SWR at all times. You don't have to change any functions. It's always on the side of your shack or up where you can see it. So if there's a big ice buildup or a bird lands on your antenna or a gopher eats through your coax, you can instantly tell something is wrong with your system. So your SWR is going to go out of range and you're going to be able to see it. So this is what make Daiwa famous, is their cross needle engineering. And that's our best seller, is the CN901HP. Nice big display, it's well lit, reasonably priced in about the 175 range. And it's a great insurance policy to make sure everything's running smooth in your antenna system.
Yeah, I like the showing forward and reflected at the same time. That's
exactly
great. So let's talk about Maldol. That's another one of your lines.
Yes, Maldol. They're having a little trouble lately. As the market has kind of changed, but they make one really good antenna for the beginner market or the market where somebody doesn't have a lot of space. And that model number is the HVU-8. That antenna is 8 bands in an antenna that's only about 8.5 feet tall. So it covers 80, 40, 20, 15, 10, 6 meters, 2 meters, and 440. So if you're trying to get one antenna that'll include 2 meters and 440 as well, that's an antenna to look at. It's a lot of adjustments. It's kind of the exact opposite of the CHA250B. That's all the adjustments, all the SWR tuning is done in the base of the antenna. So you put it up, you install it, nothing you need to do. The HVU-8 has loading coils. So each loading coil needs to be adjusted, the length, to shift that SWR dip wherever you want it in the band. And it might cover 20, 30, 40 kilohertz under 2-to-1. And then if you want to leave that zone, you're going to use an antenna tuner. But you're going to be able to get all those bands on one antenna, and including 2 meters and 440. Not the most efficient design, again, but it serves its purpose for people who are frustrated with small plots of land and homeowners associations.
And we're on here today with Mick, KB6JVT. Mick runs NCG Comet and Daiwa and Maldol, and we're talking about some of the products. And some of the listeners are saying, I've been looking for an antenna that I can use with limited space. So I think you've got a couple of solutions there, and that came from AB8FR, and there's also November Lima 7 Delta. He says, I have one of the Daiwa meters, and I also got an IC 9700 from DX Engineering a couple of weeks ago. So
you're set. You are set.
Yeah, no, this is really good. So you've got some more show and tell there, Mick. What else do you have to show?
Well, let me pull this in here right here too, because this is kind of a unique item to Comet. Again, with all the questions about I live in an apartment or a condo, or I can't drill holes in the wall to bring my coax in, Comet paid attention and said, well, let's make this piece of flat coax. So this coax right here is flat, and you can run it from inside through the window and shut the window and lock the window. So that doesn't matter to the coax. You can crimp it, you can bend it. As long as you keep your power under 100 watts on HF, there you have no trouble. It's the same connection on the outside, on the inside, as it is on the outside. So both of these connect to the inside and outside of your wall, and you don't have to upset the family by drilling holes in the wall. And you can use multiple of them. If you got 2 coax runs, just stack them on top of each other. So
Boy,
in a
that is
cold,
really cool.
yeah, cold environment, keep the windows locked. Neighborhood that you don't feel secure, putting a little block of wood in here and somebody could pry it open. This will lock and give you some peace of mind while you can still go on the air, and it's a great little jumper.
And so, what is the part number of that, Mick?
That is a CTC-50M.
CTC-50 Alpha Mike?
52M, no alpha, just Mike.
52 Mike. Okay.
Yeah, CTC-50 Mike.
Okay. Great.
It's about 15, 16 inches long overall length, and it's been a great lifesaver. For a lot of people who don't have to get divorced now by drilling holes in their wall. Saved a few marriages, I think.
So we're on here today with Mick, KB6JVT, and talking about his products. And if you have any questions about Comet or Daiwa or Maldol, Mick's the guy. So please put them in the comment area, and we'll make sure that Mick gets a chance to answer them. Okay. Any other tricks there that you want to show, Mick?
Sure. I mean, what Comet is known for, and what really got us on the map 20, 30 years ago when we started distributing their products, was their lip mounts. If I remember right, and my memory is getting a little sketchy, but when we first started selling Comet products and they offered all these lip mounts, we said, do you have any NMO type antennas? And they're like, what's NMO? And we're said well, it's new Motorola mount for drilling a hole in your roof. Oh, you can't drill holes in your roof. That's illegal. So I asked them about that, and they said, well, we don't drill holes in our roof because the Japanese government will not allow us to alter the structure of the car body. In case there's an accident, we want it to crumple in the correct zones. So you can't fill your car full of holes. So that really was why they made so many of these lip mounts that I have right here on this little bracket. They slip over the edge of a trunk deck, or if you happen to have a hatchback and that you've got a door that's got an angle, still slips over the edge, and then the mount can adjust. So when you put your coax through there, it's still vertical.
Oh,
so
yeah.
This is what, people, started buying vehicles they didn't want to drill holes in, a lot of leases. So these lip mounts, you open the trunk deck, slip it over the side. It's held on with set screws on the bottom side. That grounds it in case the antenna needs to be grounded. And this can be adjusted to virtually any angle. I've got one on my truck door, my rear truck, that the door is perfectly vertical, and you just mount it on the door of the truck, and you've still got an ability to get the antenna vertical. So these are really what drew a lot of people to Comet, especially people who didn't want to damage their cars. So that's where we really started getting a lot of sales, and a lot of people liked it. It worked really good. It sits on a piece of flat plastic, so you don't scratch the paint. You can take it off in a few years, and you don't have damage underneath there. That's really what got a lot of people interested in Comet antennas, was the mounting abilities. Then, Comet was one of the people or companies that designed the antennas able to fold over. Right here and below here, there's a little spring-loaded hinge. So if you want to go in your garage, you can fold the antenna over.
Nice.
So that's a lot of people like that. They were tired of crawling up on the roof to fold the antenna over.
Right.
Now, after a few years, Comet started making bigger and bigger antennas. And let me take this off and put this larger antenna on it. And even though you can't see the whole thing, it's about 6 feet tall. And what was happening, as we distributed our first 100 pieces, people were calling and saying, that antenna is folding over on the freeway when I'm doing about 60, 70 miles an hour. The wind speed had the strength to lift it up and fold it over all by itself. So Comet went back to the drawing board and changed the fold over from that spring load to this mechanical locking connector. So we've got this threaded collar here that locks it in place so it can't fold over due to a high wind load. So that
Well, that's nice.
that was great. I mean, that's one thing about Comet is they see a problem, they fix it as fast as they can.
Wow, that is
So
really cool, Mick.
that solved a lot of issues.
There's a question in here, and do you have a SKU that's AUDI 52? Audi 52?
We do not.
I'm not sure what Audi 52 is, but
No, that's not a. Yeah, that's not a Comet model.
Okay, all right. What else do you have to show us, Mick?
Okay, well, I mean, Comet does specialize in mobile VHF and UHF, and they did create this antenna. This is the world famous CA 2x4 SR. So Comet antenna, CA 2x4, 2 meters by 440. SR stands for search and rescue. Because they designed this antenna with a very broad bandwidth, a lot of our customers were volunteering for, search and rescue, basically. They needed a broadband antenna that they could transmit on the sheriff's frequencies, the APR, or the family radio services frequencies, without the radio shutting down due to high SWR. So this antenna Comet designed, and it's very broadband, covers like 135 to 165, I believe, and 435 to 465, excuse me. So you can transmit out of band if you're on a search and rescue mission and you need to talk to a variety of public service agencies without the high SWR issue. So this is our best-selling mobile antenna by far.
That is really cool. I did not realize that the bandwidth was so big that it could get to some public safety frequencies.
It absolutely does. They did it on. It took a lot of engineering, but they got it done. I asked them, well, can't you do that to all the antennas? They said, it's impossible. Impossible. This was hard enough. Please just accept this one and be happy. Like, okay, I'm happy. So this is
what is the model number of that, Mick?
CA 2x4 SR.
CA 2x4 SR.
Yeah. Okay. So the 2x4 SR will have the standard PL259 type connector on the base of it.
Right.
Which is like I mentioned earlier when we started chatting that Comet didn't even know what an NMO connector was when we first started talking to them, years and years ago. People in, Brazil and Japan and around the world, they don't know what a new Motorola mount is, or they typically don't know what a 3/8 by 24 American threaded connector is. I mean, it's become a little more accepted now, but back then they had no idea.
Right.
So there is an NMO version of this as well. Just add NMO to the end of the antenna model number, and that will come with an NMO type connector that's common in the U.S.
Very cool. And what else do you have there, Mick? Show us some more stuff.
Let's see. While we're staying on dual band, we've got this is the SS460, SS680, because a lot of people call us when they get tired of breaking their antennas. It's like, I hit the same tree in my driveway, it keeps breaking it. Do you have parts? I go, well, it'd probably be cheaper for you to trim the tree than buy parts every couple months. He's like, yeah, well, thanks a lot, pal, but I think I just need some parts. The Comet came out with these antennas that have a spring built into the base. So it gives it a little more flexibility. You can hit that garage door, you can hit that tree limb without hopefully damaging the antenna. They're not indestructible, but these are the two versions. There's a SS460 that's about 17 inches tall, and an SS680 that's this is about 27 inches tall. So if you live in a place where there's low-hanging branches, you're going through parking structures, the same garage, and you don't want to damage your antenna, this is the series to get. It starts with SS for spring, and it'll take a lot more hits and rough introductions to branches without hopefully breaking. So this came out a few years ago and they sell very well.
No,
so that's the dual band.
Very cool. All right, what else?
This was the first. This was the first version of the antenna the Comet made for people who were tired of breaking it. It's just a rubber duck element on a dual band 2-meter 440 mobile antenna. You go in and out of garages and parking structures and branches and it just flexes. So this is a short, quarter wavelength antenna, not a lot of range, but it's for people who don't need a lot of range. They just need an antenna that will survive without breaking and needing repair parts when they need it the most. So this is another one of their flexible dual banders, model SBB-1, and also available in an NMO connector if that's your connector of choice.
Cool.
And people, and since there's a lot of new hams coming out now, it's another question that I get on our customer service line is, what's better, the PL259 type connector or an NMO? And typically my answer is, if you're going to stay with mounts that are lip mounts that don't require you to drill holes in your car, there's a lot more options for this type of connector system. We've got about 12 mounts that will screw, this connector will screw into, doesn't require any holes. The NMO mount, reversely, was made if you're going to drill a hole in your car. So we only have 2 mounts that will accept an NMO mount. So that's kind of where I lead people. If you don't care about drilling holes, get the NMO. They're easy to install. They're waterproof. If you don't want to damage your car, get the UHF type connector mount and antenna. And you'll have a lot more options as you grow in the hobby.
Super.
Hopefully that helps. Okay.
All right. You got some more stuff to show us, Mick?
Yep. Dual band. Maybe 8-10 years ago, when all the HTs became very compact, very small, very lightweight, customers were complaining that our heavy duty, dense rubber HT antennas were causing the radio to fall over. Or if they bumped into somebody and did a lot of movement with the antenna, they could damage the connector on the handheld, because those new SMA type connectors are not quite as robust as the old BNC type. Mm-hmm. So that's when Comet decided to go to this type of material, like unbreakable eyeglass frame material, lightweight, flexible. You can tighten the knot, but it won't, it won't make your radio fall over if you're sitting on your desk from the weight. You can bounce into people without really noticing it, and still give you all the gain and performance of those heavy, dense rubber ducts. So almost all Comet HT antennas now use this material.
Okay. All right. Show us some more stuff.
All right. So mobile, when you use one of our lip mounts that we discussed a little earlier, you got to get the coax into the vehicle. Using the standard diameter, even RG58, or the standard diameter coax that Comet uses for their mobile mounts, you can sometimes cause problems getting the coax in. Number one, you can start wind noise. As the coax pushes the door out slightly, you can start a water leak as rainwater, melting snow follows the coax into the vehicle. Or you can just cut the coax in half by slamming it in the door. So Comet created this 2-section mobile coax assembly. The UHF connector, or NMO type, goes up through the lip mount. But this tiny diameter RG174 type coax is Teflon insulated rather than foam. So Teflon doesn't compress when you shut the door on it, and it's really more durable, and it gets through the weather seal without pushing the weather seal apart and causing a water leak. So this is the first 18 inches of coax, so you've got room to get the coax through the weather seal. Then the rest of the coax is heavy duty, low loss coax for the rest of the route up to the radio. Mm-hmm. So they developed this system knowing that using a lip mount is going to cause some issues getting the coax inside. So they solved it with this 2 diameter type of coax. Then what they did at the end of the coax, they used this reverse threaded barrel, so you could take the barrel off of the connector,
right,
and then push the connector under the carpet or between the seats or through a small hole, get it up to your radio, great, and then screw the barrel back on. So nice. that solves another issue. So it raises the price, $2 or $3, but Comet likes to just make things the best they can, and make it as convenient and easy to get it installed without any trouble. So they're always focusing on that, which we really, really, really like.
No, that is super. Well, we're here today with Mick, KB6JVT from NCG Comet, and if you have any questions for Mick, now is the time. um, because eventually he's going to run out of goodies to show us. What
Yeah,
else?
I'm getting close. Well, and they can all, after this is over, if you want to call us, our 800 number, I'll probably answer. There's another question people always ask, how many employees are there at NCG? 10, 20? There's two of us. There's me working in the front office, doing customer service, sales and accounting. And then there's my best friend since third grade, Jim, in the warehouse doing all the shipping, receiving, and getting all the orders out. So if you call here, you're going to talk to either Mick or Jim, and we can get anything solved we need to get solved. All right. So you're welcome to call and give us a chance to help.
So Ray Novak asks, Mick, there are a lot of antennas that look a lot like Comet antennas. Are all these antennas made in the same factory?
That's the question I've been answering for decades. Now, I've been to both the Diamond and the Comet factories, and they both are totally separate. That's one thing people always ask. Aren't they really just the same company? Don't they all came out of the same, bin? But they buy a lot of their parts from the same subcontractors that may be located in Taiwan or China. I'm not exactly sure where they source their parts, but I'm pretty sure they use the same part suppliers just for the economy of scale. If they can make 10,000 pieces of one instead of 5, they can both get it for a less expensive price. So I'm sure that happens in the background. And Comet, you've got to understand the Japanese way of doing business. If one company comes out with a product, the other company, if they don't want to be ashamed, has to copy it and come out with the same product. And I think that's crazy. And, in America, we always, companies want to stand on their own 2 feet. Nobody wants to copy anybody else. Well, most manufacturers, I should say. Because that's more the American way, but it's exact opposite in Japan. It's like Diamond will come out with a product and Comet will have one 6 months later. I was like, why? Oh, we must. We have no choice. The domestic market demands it. Now, Comet did create this analyzer, and Diamond has not yet. It's been 8 years, and they haven't come out with their own version, so they might have just given up on that, trying to copy other products on that one. So don't think that'll ever happen, but the Comet analyzers, I would like to demonstrate it, but it's just almost impossible to see the graphs and everything online. Yeah. But there are lots of videos. There's lots of videos. I think DX might even have one where you can just Google search, YouTube search it, and see it function. It's a great analyzer. It's got both analog needles and graphic display. Wonderful, wonderful tool. And take a look at that if you're looking for an analyzer to help tune an antenna.
No, that's great, Mick. Well, Mick, I got to tell you that we have Herm on here. He says he loves his Comet triplexer. And Herm also says, do you make a 1.2 gigahertz antenna that can be used as a base station antenna?
We have 2 of them. Well, we have 2 tri-banders. We have a GP95, which is 2 meters, 440, and 1.2. And we have the GP98, which is the first 95 is about 8 feet tall. The GP98 is a little bit taller, and 2 sections of fiberglass. So those 2 are both tri-band, and they add 1.2 gig. We also have a 1.2 only antenna. It's the GP21. So if you already have a dual bander, but you want to put up another antenna for 1.2, the GP21 works great. And then we also have a Yagi, the CYA 1216E. That's a 1.2 only Yagi antenna if you need that extra gain in one direction. So yeah, we've got several. Comet has always threatened to discontinue those antennas because they say they lose money on every one they sell because every antenna is hand tuned. They assemble the pieces and then they put the antenna on an analyzer and they tune the coil. They pull some of the coils closer together. They separate some apart. They have to do a lot of hand tuning to get all 3 bands to come in and work, be resonant where they need to be. They say each antenna takes them about a half an hour to tune, but they want to have a complete line. So they're not going to, especially once the new 1200 radios came out. It's our sales have increased, and so now they're making a lot more of them. But it's a difficult antenna to tune. Now, there are copies, in Taiwan and China. They don't spend that half hour, an hour making sure everything's dead on. They put it together close enough, package it, send it out the door. So that's another good thing about Comet that I personally love, because I may order, 200 antennas of a certain model number, and I'll get the invoice, a month or two later, and they're going to ship me 189, for example. And I'll say, well, where's the other 11? They say, oh, the components were defective. They didn't tune perfectly, so we ejected them and sent them back to the factory. So that's the best thing. We don't have any defects from Comet. Everything is weeded out. They test everything to make sure everything that goes in the package that goes to the customer, as much as humanly possible, is ready to go.
Well, that's very cool, Mick. And a question that we get asked a lot: our customers notice that over in Europe, specifically in the United Kingdom, the Create line of rotators are available over there, and so because through you, we carry some of the Create products. Is there?
Right.
And they used to be, I mean, 35 years ago, you could get.
You're right.
There was a company in Virginia, I think, that was bringing in Create. Any plans or any ideas on if that would ever happen?
They're very, very, very expensive. And I know there's a lot of hams who love, the best quality, but it's difficult to market and stock and develop a market in a small niche that wants the best. And that's the main problem. We'd love to sell them, but they're so expensive to order, to keep in stock, to service. That's why we've shied away from it. But if you have a special order, if you have a rotator that you like of Create, we can special order it. That way we can, just add $100 to the cost and get it and deliver it to the customer without, having a big markup, So we can do that if need be, and if demand does increase and people do want them, we will definitely stock them in the future.
Well, Melanie and I might talk to you about that, because I think there is a demand for. I mean, there may be a demand there, so we'll have more discussions. Dino KL0S says, guys here, and I believe Dino lives in Virginia, are starting to play on 900 megahertz. Do you have any antennas for 900, Mick?
We have a base station vertical. It's called the KP20. So it covers, basically 902 to 925. And that's all we have for 900 is that single base station antenna. So yeah, I wish we had more, but Comet just doesn't make them.
Right. No, that's great. At least you got one. So
exactly.
That's a good start. Well, Mick, we're going to wrap this up. You have any last comments or tricks you want to show?
I've got, this is our newest product, just came out. You guys have been selling them for maybe a month or two, and it's the HFJ 350M. This is a multi-section HF portable antenna for the IC705, basically. Even though there's lots of HF, low QRP radios out you can use it on, but this was the customer that it was really designed for. It comes in multiple sections and then screws together. I'll just take this lower section apart so you can see it. But the transportation size is really small, about 8 or 9 inches. So if you're backpacking or have it somewhere, you want to keep it small, not going to get caught on anything or break. This is, they made it just for that type of customer. It's got a telescoping element, so you can fine tune your SWR. It has a wander lead that you choose, your 20, 15, 17, 40 meter, 80 meter bands when you click on it. And it has a little lug on the bottom, you can see it, to add your ground wire. We've gotten videos from a couple customers who have added a wire and then go into a picnic bench and just pulled it off to a chain link fence and just have great coverage, great signal, transmit and receive. They're really happy with it. So this is what we came out with to help customers who are looking for a multi-band HF antenna for portable use, and perfect for this IC705. So this is what they call the toy box. because like a kid, hams can be kids sometimes. You just go into your toy box to see what bands you want to play with today. That's why they named it that. And they came out with this little bag that accepts all the coils, and you can wrap it up, and you have yourself your toy box in a nice little canvas bag.
Nice. Well,
so
that's
the
beautiful.
toy box, yeah, it's nice. And Comet, they made the toy box that includes a 160-meter coil that you can add or not add, use if you don't want to use it.
Right.
And there's also, if you don't want to use 160, there's the regular HFJ 350M that doesn't include the 80-meter coil, and that's like $15-20 less money. Why waste the money if you're never going to get on 160?
Right.
So those are the two newest products that hopefully will be very popular, and everybody will be able to use them and have a lot of fun. There's a couple of YouTube videos. You can look them up, see some people playing with them. And if you're looking for one, this is a great option.
Yeah,
they're relatively inexpensive too.
Yeah, hopefully I'll have a 705 here soon, and I want to get one of those toy box antennas and try it out. That sounds great.
All right.
Victor Kilo 3 Mike Hotel is in the chat room. He's asking questions about a diamond antenna. So Brendan, I'm going to ask Melanie to take that offline with you, and because Mick is not going to talk about diamond here today, but I did want to acknowledge that, Brendan. But Mel, if you could make sure that we touch base with VK3MH afterwards. Well, Mick, thanks very much for coming on today. This has been great to have you on the Manufacturers Showcase. And next Thursday, we will have Dr. Jack from Comet Antennas. Speaking of small antennas, Dr. Jack has developed a line of compact antennas for HF and VHF, and we're really excited to have him on with us as well. So that'll be next Thursday, 18:30 Zulu, 2:30 Eastern Time. And Brendan says he wanted to know the power handling capability of the Comet tri-band antenna. He's got 100 watts out of his IC9700, Mick.
Yeah, typically the antennas are rated at their CW power, the constant wave power. So half that, and you'll get your sideband power or FM power. So usually it's 100 watts. And some people will transmit 3 radios into the same antenna at the same time, which is perfectly fine as long as you don't exceed that 100 watts total power on all 3 transmitters.
Great. And there's a question from Italy, from IK4 Mike Tango Fox. He's working with antennas on his balcony and using a microvert antennas, but antenna multiband. What is a good option for IK4 MTF?
Well, look at the HVU8. It's got a ground radial system that screws into the bottom of the antenna, so you have an elevated ground radial system. But if you're going to mount it next to a patio or like a condo or a balcony, the radials can all be rotated so they're all on a 180-degree side of the antenna. So that way you don't have radials poking inside the house or towards the balcony. Mm-hmm. So that comes in convenient, having those rotatable radial collars, so you can move all the radials outside the balcony. So take a look at that one. That might help. Okay.
Well, if you didn't get your question answered here, you can always email us at DX Engineering, and we will get your question to Mick. Mick, thanks very much for being on today. We went a little over time, but you had so many great products, and I want to thank you for everything you do to make amateur radio more fun.
Happy to be here. Thanks for the opportunity, guys.
Okay. 73 from DX Engineering. See you tomorrow for the weekend special at 20 Zulu here on Facebook and YouTube Live. 73 from DX.
Take care.